My name is Joyce Jones, and I am 27. There are three things my mother believes in more than God: church potlucks, inspirational Pinterest quotes, and my older sister, Evelyn. She calls Evelyn my first blessing, which would be sweet if it wasn't followed, almost every time, by, "And then we had our little surprise," said like I arrived on a Tuesday as a scheduling error. Growing up, I was the spare key, useful, easy to forget, dangling by the door. If there was a crisis, I was the one called. If there was a celebration, I was the one taking photos so I wouldn't block the view of the real stars. Evelyn, on the other hand, was the plan, the investment, the heir to our family legacy. That legacy, for the record, was a 2-bedroom ranch and a smoker grill my dad never cleaned. By the time Evelyn was 25, she had a husband, Jason, 2 kids, and a graduation photo framed in every room of my parents' house, including the guest bathroom. Me? At 27, I fixed AC units, patched drywall, and ate gas station burritos in an apartment that smelled faintly of paint thinner and ambition. I wasn't bitter. Or maybe I was, but it felt more like a bruise you forget until someone pokes it and asks, "Does this hurt?" So I did something I didn't tell anyone about. Not my parents, not Evelyn, not even my childhood best friend Marcus, who once knew where I hid my emergency chocolate and, in a moment of weakness, sold me out for a Snickers bar. I worked overtime, saved every extra dollar, said no to vacations, yes to second shifts, and lived like a raccoon with a budgeting spreadsheet. 2 years of quiet, 3 cups of coffee a day, and exactly 0 confessions. On a windy Friday, I signed a stack of papers with a shaking hand and bought a duplex. Old bones, creaky porch, a fence that leaned like a tired uncle, but solid. 2 units, 2 bedrooms each, 1 bath, and a heartbeat I could hear when the house settled at dusk. No cosigners, no family help, just me and my toolbox. I didn't pop champagne. I stood in the empty living room of Unit A and whispered, "You did it, girl." Because it felt like the sort of moment that needed to be witnessed, even if the witness was me. Then I swept, scrubbed, caulked, and painted until the walls absorbed my scent and the floorboards learned my footsteps. A neighbor named Lou, coffee breath, eyes like he'd seen every version of a person, leaned on the fence and squinted. "You the new landlord?" he asked. "I guess I am," I said. "Good," he nodded. "Better you than the last one. She ran a pottery class for cats in Unit B." He did not smile. I still don't know if he was kidding. My plan was simple: live downstairs, rent upstairs, build equity, and be the kind of landlord I wish I'd had at 21. Responsive, not allergic to texts, and sparing with passive-aggressive post-its. For 3 weeks, that plan worked. I woke early, fixed what squeaked, and fell asleep to the comfortable ache of a day well worked. There was also Luca, my boyfriend, who didn't need center stage to feel seen. We'd met when his car's AC coughed its last breath in July. He paid me for the fix, then brought iced coffee to the job 2 days later, for the hero who saved me from boiling. Luca never tried to out-talk a silence, never told me what to do with my money, never made jokes that felt like little cuts. He asked questions and actually waited for the answers. When I told him about the duplex, quietly, secretly, his eyes did that warm thing. "Proud of you," he said. 2 simple words that landed like a soft coat over a hard winter. But peace has a half-life in my family, and it expired the day I got a text from my mother. "Family dinner Sunday? It's been too long." Translation: "We want something. Dress nicely." Family dinner at my parents' house has a choreography that never changes. Forced hugs at the door, mom too tight, dad too limp, then appetizers we all pretend to like. Deviled eggs that smell like regret. Shrimp cocktails that still have frostbite. The questions come with the salad. "So," Mom chirped, sliding Caesar onto her plate like it was a personality trait, "work is, what is it you're doing again?" "The HVAC thing," I said, stabbing a crouton. "Electrical, small repairs, booked solid." "Cute that you work with your hands," Evelyn added, like she was praising a child's macaroni craft. Jason talked about their toddler recognizing triangles. My microwave could tell time, but sure, let's applaud geometry. Mom tilted her head, performing casual like an understudy who'd forgotten the lines. Any big developments? New purchases? I felt it then. The net widening, the water getting shallow. I shrugged. Nothing worth a speech. Disappointment flitted across her face like a bird that hit the window. Dad cleared his throat. Your sister and Jason are in a situation, he said, in the tone usually reserved for hurricanes. Oh? I took a piece of garlic bread like it owed me money. Our lease ended, Evelyn said. The new place isn't ready yet. We were thinking, Mom cut in, maybe they could stay with you for a little while. There it was. I hadn't told them about the duplex. I hadn't posted a thing. The only person who knew was... Marcus mentioned you bought a place, Mom added brightly, sing-songing betrayal. I pictured Marcus, laughing at a dumb meme, not realizing he'd just handed over the keys to my privacy. So you just assumed Evelyn's family would move in? I asked. Just until the new house is ready, Mom said. You've always been independent. It's not like you need both units. Ah, the free rent agenda. My success. Repackaged as a communal potluck where my sister arrives with a fork and an empty plate. I already have tenants lined up, I lied, because sometimes a lie is just self-defense dressed in a blazer. So sudden, Evelyn said, like leases were impulsive tattoos. You didn't tell us you were buying, Mom said, playing the hurt card she keeps in her wallet. Why keep secrets? Because I knew it wouldn't matter, I replied, and in the corner of my eye, I saw Jason flinch. Is there really no room? Dad asked, a line from a nativity scene that never fit our family. Nope, I said. Both units are taken. They didn't even ask for the address. They just assumed I'd hand over the keys like a dutiful little sister who knew her place. That night, I left the dishes in the sink and posted both listings. By Friday, I had 2 tenants. Up top, Angela, a pediatric nurse who baked on weekends and owned 6 slow cookers. Downstairs, Dennis, a divorced math teacher who paid early, had opinions about grout and delivered peach cobbler like an apology for the entire public school system. They weren't just tenants, they were proof of work, of worth, of walls I paid for. On Sunday, I was patching a fence board in a hoodie and earbuds when Angela came down the steps with an envelope. Rent, she said, smiling like kindness was her native language. And thank you for fixing the cabinet hinge. I tucked the envelope into my back pocket and felt the soft, stunned satisfaction of a life that pays itself forward. A white SUV slowed to a crawl at the curb. I turned, my mother in the passenger seat, holding a lemonade the size of a toddler. My father, hands at 10 and 2, squinting like rent checks were visible to the naked eye. Mom's mouth opened, then closed, then shaped the words, I will never unsee. That's her. I lifted 2 fingers in a lazy wave, wrench still in hand. Angela, sweet Angela, waved too, unbothered by the suburban surveillance. My parents didn't get out. They rolled on, slow, stunned, a car wash of disbelief. An hour later, the family group chat pinged. Mom, nice place, honey. Looks like a lot of work. The winky face, her preferred weapon. I didn't respond, but I reread it 3 times, not because it hurt, but because it said everything. They'd seen me owning, managing, profiting. They weren't proud. They were confused. In their heads, success was spelled Evelyn. I was supposed to orbit her like a helpful moon, lighting her way, soft and unseen. Luca texted, How'd dinner go? I typed, They found the duplex. He replied with a voice note I listened to twice. You don't need to justify a boundary. His voice was a porch light in a storm. Then, as if cued by a cosmic stage manager, a notification flashed from someone I hadn't thought about in months. Sabrina, Luca's ex, posting a story, half cryptic, half petty. A photo of a key on a string with the caption, Some people only feel big when they make families small. I stared at that little glittering key on my phone and felt the old bruise again, except this time I pressed back. Because this house, this life, wasn't built to make anyone feel small. It was built so I didn't have to. For a full week after that winky face text, I convinced myself maybe that was it. Maybe my parents had gotten their answer, seen that both units were full, and decided to focus on Evelyn's family instead. But then Sunday rolled around. The first message came from Lou, my neighbor. White SUV circled again. Third time this week. They slowed down like they were hunting Pokemon. I laughed out loud, but it didn't feel funny. When you grow up with parents who prefer silent judgment over confrontation, you learn that snooping is their version of war. The next day, Angela added her own update. Your mom waved at me while I was carrying banana bread. Then she just sat in the car across the street for 20 minutes. Is everything okay? I wanted to say yes, but the truth was no. This was their way of reclaiming control. They didn't know how to handle boundaries unless they could turn them into surveillance missions. By Wednesday, Dennis texted a photo. My parents' SUV parked half behind the mailbox, Dad squinting like a detective. You famous or something? He joked. Only in the most dysfunctional sense, I replied. That Sunday, while patching a gutter, I heard it again, the slow hum of the SUV. I pretended not to notice, earbuds in, paintbrush moving steady. Angela came out of Unit B, rent envelope in hand. Here you go. You're honestly the best landlord ever. As I took it, I glanced over her shoulder and saw my parents staring from the car, eyes wide, mouths half open like they were watching a wildlife documentary titled Daughter Who Functioned Without Us. Mom turned to Dad, lips forming the same 3 words as before. That's her. I waved again, calm, controlled. Inside, my heartbeat pounded like I was standing on stage. That night, the family group chat exploded. Mom, we stopped by to see your neighborhood. Looks cozy. Dad, driveway looks small. You should widen it before winter. Evelyn, cute place. So you really can't spare a room? I set the phone face down. Lucas saw my expression and sighed. They're not asking. They're testing you, he said. I know. Then don't play. I smiled weakly. You make it sound easy. He shrugged. Boundaries never are, but it's still better than letting them bulldoze your peace. Later that night, I scrolled social media out of habit, and there she was, Sabrina, Luca's ex, posting another glitter-coated sermon. Funny how some people preach independence while their hearts are just under renovation. I didn't even screenshot it. I just locked my phone. But part of me wondered, how did she even know what was happening? The only people who could have told her anything personal were mutual acquaintances, or Evelyn. And Evelyn was never above a little gossip if it meant sounding concerned. The next morning, I opened the family chat out of morbid curiosity. Evelyn. Jason and I are still looking for temporary housing. Hotels are so pricey with kids. Mom. You know your sister has space. She's just private. Dad. In my day, families helped each other. No questions asked. In his day, asbestos was insulation and daughters didn't own property. But sure, Dad, let's use history as a moral compass. I muted the group. Instead, I focused on my tenants, my work, my small victories, a perfectly patched hole, a working sink, a quiet evening without emotional audits. But even peace has echoes. The next weekend, as I returned from the hardware store, Lou waved me down. You might want to check your porch light. Someone left a note. It was a folded piece of paper, neat handwriting, Mom's handwriting. Joyce, don't be stubborn. Family comes first. Call me. I stared at the sentence for a long moment, then crumpled it softly in my hand and tossed it into the recycling bin. When I told Luca later, he frowned. You okay? I'm fine. Just tired of feeling like the villain in their story. Then stop playing their role, he said. It was such a simple thing to say, but it stayed with me for days. The next time the SUV drove by, I didn't hide. I stepped onto the porch, broom in hand, and met their eyes head on. Mom froze. Dad shifted in the seat. Then, for the first time in my life, I waved first. Not politely, not apologetically. Just a small gesture that said, I see you, and I'm not coming over. That evening, a new message appeared in the chat. Evelyn. We're between places, remember? It's not forever. Mom. You've always been so generous. Dad. Don't forget who helped you learn hard work. I typed nothing. Instead, I took a photo of the duplex at sunset, the light catching the porch I painted myself, and posted it to Facebook with a short caption. 1 year ago, I signed the papers. 2 units. 0 help. Grateful. Within 10 minutes, Sabrina liked it, then unliked it. Classic. 5 minutes later, Evelyn texted privately. Wow, real subtle. I smiled to myself. Subtle wasn't the point. Truth was. Because for the first time, the story of Joyce Jones wasn't being told at a family table with half-baked casseroles and full-bodied judgment. It was being written, quietly, stubbornly, on my own porch. By Monday morning, the group chat was practically steaming with passive-aggressive energy. Mom, Joyce, honey, can we talk sometime this week? Nothing serious. Translation. An ambush wrapped in emoji. I ignored it, hoping silence might finally speak louder than guilt. It didn't. By Wednesday, she called. Twice. Then left a voicemail that started with, "Don't be upset," which is how you know you should absolutely be upset. I called back that evening, mostly so it wouldn't turn into a doorstep visit. "Hi, sweetheart," Mom said, all honey. "I know things got tense, but we've been thinking. There might be a compromise." "A compromise?" I repeated, cautious. "Yes," she said brightly. "Evelyn, Jason, and the kids could stay with you, in your unit, just for a while. You've got 2 bedrooms, right?" I closed my eyes and counted to 5. "You're suggesting I let my sister's entire family move into my personal home?" "Temporarily," she insisted. "You work long hours anyway. It wouldn't be that disruptive." "To who, Mom? Them or me?" Silence, then softly. "Don't let this become a wedge between you girls. You've always been so close." I laughed before I could stop myself. Close? The last time Evelyn and I were close was when she borrowed my dress for prom and returned it with wine stains. Mom didn't respond. She switched tactics instead. "He's your sister's husband, Joyce. You know how much pressure Jason's under. The least we can do is support them as family." There it was again. That word, family, dragged out like a moral leash. "Mom," I said quietly, "I'm not doing this out of spite. I'm just done being the fallback option. I've worked hard for this house. It's my piece. I'm not sharing it." The silence that followed was sharp enough to draw blood. Then, just before hanging up, she sighed. "You'll regret this. Pride never built a family." "Funny," I said. "It built this duplex." She hung up. By the next day, the family chat looked like a courtroom transcript. Dad. "In my day, family stuck together." Evelyn. "I'm not asking for charity, just a roof." Jason. "Kids don't understand why their aunt's mad at us?" Mom. "You've changed, Joyce, and not for the better." No one said congratulations. No one said, "We're proud of you." Just guilt wrapped in nostalgia and tied with a bow of entitlement. So I did what Luca always told me to do. Redirect energy. That weekend, I threw a small cookout on the back patio. Nothing fancy. Me, Angela, and Dennis. Angela brought pulled pork sliders that could win competitions. Dennis showed up with his famous corn salad and a 6-pack. I brought the grill and the playlist. The smell of smoke, the laughter, the clinking of cups. It felt like breathing again. Then, halfway through the meal, I heard the familiar slam of a car door. The laughter dimmed. A white SUV sat across the street. Mom, Dad, and, of course, Evelyn. Standing there like judges at a silent trial. Angela leaned closer. "You expecting company?" "Not remotely," I said, gripping my drink like a shield. They didn't wave. They just stared. Mom's expression was somewhere between disbelief and offense, as if my happiness was an act of rebellion. Dad's arms crossed. Evelyn's chin lifted like she was surveying land she used to own. Dennis muttered, "We can head inside." "No," I said. "They can watch." I wasn't rude. I wasn't smug. I was steady. For once, I wasn't shrinking to make them comfortable. Angela gave a soft, polite wave. Evelyn blinked, confused. Mom frowned. Dad looked annoyed that no one was begging for forgiveness. After a long pause, they turned and climbed back into the SUV. Except Evelyn lingered. She stared at the porch, at the laughter she wasn't part of, at the independence she'd mistaken for arrogance. Then she turned, shoulders tight, and got in the car. As the SUV drove away, I realized my hands weren't shaking. My voice didn't tremble. For the first time, I didn't feel guilty for choosing peace over performance. That night, the chat lit up again. "Evelyn, guess we'll check into an extended stay. Hope you're happy." Mom, "We tried to include you. You made your choice." Dad, "Hope it's worth it." I stared at the screen for a long time. Then I opened my camera, stepped out onto the porch, and took a picture. Me standing in front of the duplex, coffee in hand, porch lights glowing. Caption, "Worth every brick." No tags, no explanations, just truth. It had been 4 days since the family group chat went silent. 4 peaceful, echo-less, drama-free days. No texts, no guilt trips, no passive-aggressive emojis. Just work, sleep, and the hum of my own freedom. Angela brought me banana bread on Tuesday. Dennis fixed the mower cord just because it bothered him to watch me struggle. Luca came by that night with takeout and soft music, and for the first time in weeks, I ate dinner without my phone buzzing like a guilt alarm. Peace, I realized, was addictive. Then came the knock, not the doorbell. A knock, firm, deliberate, familiar. I opened the door, expecting Lou or maybe a package. Instead, Evelyn. She stood on my porch with a tired expression and a duffel bag slung over one shoulder. Behind her, in the driveway, a minivan sat idling. I saw Jason in the driver's seat, kids in the back with cereal bags, a stack of boxes wedged beside them. "Hey," Evelyn said, voice light but brittle. "Can we talk?" I leaned against the doorframe. "We are." Her smile faltered. "Look, things got complicated. The hotel's awful. The kids aren't sleeping. We're not asking for much. Just a week, maybe 2. We'll stay out of your way." I crossed my arms. "Evelyn, we've had this conversation." She looked over her shoulder at the van, then back at me. "Please, Joyce, you've always been the strong one. I know you have space." "You also know I said no." Her eyes shimmered, half genuine tears, half performance. I couldn't tell where the act ended and the habit began. "You're not really going to turn away your own sister, are you?" Before I could answer, the passenger window rolled down. Jason leaned out. "Come on, Joyce, don't make this harder. We're family." That word again, family, dragged through the air like a rusty chain. I took a deep breath. "You think family means access. I think it means respect." Evelyn's lips pressed together. "You've changed." "I had to," I said, because staying the same meant staying small. Jason muttered something under his breath, probably not complimentary, and looked back at his phone. In the back seat, the kids stared, wide-eyed, maybe confused why Aunt Joyce wasn't saving the day this time. Then my phone buzzed in my pocket, a message preview from Sabrina. "Hard to watch people abandon blood for bricks." I didn't even have to guess where she got her story. Evelyn's been venting, and Sabrina, ever the opportunist, was fanning the flames online. I pocketed my phone and looked at my sister. "You don't get to weaponize guilt through other people," I said. Evelyn blinked. "What are you talking about?" "Doesn't matter," I said. "The point is the same. I'm not your backup plan anymore." Her expression cracked, part rage, part disbelief. "You're really turning your back on us?" I stepped outside, shutting the door behind me, keeping my tone calm. "No, I'm standing on my own porch. Big difference." She scoffed, arms crossed. "You sound just like Luca. He's filled your head with this independence nonsense." "Luca didn't build this duplex," I said evenly. "I did." Behind her, Jason revved the engine like that would end the conversation. "Look," she said, voice trembling now. "I know we've had our issues, but this is cruel." I shook my head. Cruel is assuming someone sacrifices our community property. Evelyn looked stunned, like I'd spoken a language she'd never heard before. I softened slightly, enough to let the truth through without venom. "There's a park 2 blocks down," I said, nodding toward the street. "They've got shade and clean bathrooms. It'll give the kids somewhere to stretch while you figure out your next step." Her mouth opened, then closed again. No words came out. For the first time, my silence didn't feel weak. It felt final. Evelyn turned away slowly, walked to the van. Jason didn't look at me. The kids peeked out the window, then ducked when she climbed in. The door slammed. The engine groaned. The van rolled away. I stood there until it turned the corner and disappeared. Then I went inside, locked the door, and exhaled. Luca texted 5 minutes later. "You okay?" I typed back. For the first time in my life, yes. Then I set my phone face down, poured myself iced tea, and sat by the window. The porch light flickered against the fence I'd repaired, and the house, my house, felt impossibly quiet. That night, I slept deeper than I had in years. Because no matter what they said next, no matter what story they told about me online or at family dinners, I knew the truth. Saying no wasn't cruelty. It was self-respect with a front door lock. 2 weeks passed. No knocks, no calls, no guilt-laden texts disguised as checking in. The group chat, once a battlefield of emojis and moral lectures, was silent. Beautifully, gloriously silent. I filled my days with small, steady victories, finishing a repair job early, repainting the porch rails, baking with Angela, helping Dennis hang new blinds. Every hour was mine. Every decision was mine. Then on Thursday afternoon, a letter arrived. A real, handwritten letter. The second I saw the handwriting, my stomach tightened. Mom always curled the Y in my name too tightly, like she was choking the word you. I sat at the table, the house quiet except for the hum of the fridge, and unfolded it. "Joyce, we're disappointed in how things turned out. Family means sacrifice. You had a chance to help your sister, and instead you chose pride. One day, I hope you realize what you've lost. Mom. That was it. No love, no warmth, just disapproval, neatly folded in cursive. I laughed, softly at first, then louder. Not the bitter kind, but the kind that comes from recognizing an old trick that finally stopped working. That night, I told Luca about it over dinner. He listened quietly, then said, "You should frame it." I frowned. Frame it? Yeah. Every time you doubt yourself, you can look at it and remember what peace costs and why it's worth every penny. That idea sparked something in me. The next day, I drove to a local print shop, paid $7, printed something simple and sharp, a photo of my duplex, sunlight spilling across the porch, and 3 words in bold letters beneath it. Built without you. I mailed it to my parents' house. No note, no explanation, just that. 3 days later, I got the notifications in sequence. Evelyn blocked me on Facebook. Jason removed me from the family Netflix plan. Mom sent one last message in the group chat. "You've made your choice. I hope you're proud of yourself." I pinned that message, so every time they opened the chat, they'd see who said it and who it really applied to. Because yes, I was proud. I was proud of every skipped vacation, every late-night side job, every ignored insult at family dinners, when Evelyn's achievements were toasted and my hard work was treated like an afterthought. They called it pride. I called it proof. Of growth, of independence, of survival. But the universe loves its sense of irony. That weekend, Sabrina, Luca's ex, posted a story time video, thinly disguised but unmistakably about me. Ever met someone who thinks owning property makes them better than their family? Some people call it independence. I call it selfishness in a cute outfit. My phone buzzed nonstop. Mutual friends sending screenshots, little shocked emojis, popcorn gifs. I didn't reply. I didn't even tell Luca, because I didn't need to. He came over that evening, held up his phone, and said quietly, "She's trying to get a rise out of you." I know. I shut her down. Apparently, he'd messaged Sabrina directly, telling her to take it down, and she did, within an hour. When I asked what he said, he smiled. Just that you've done more with a wrench and courage than most people do with a handout and a hashtag. I laughed until I cried. Later that night, I sat on the porch again, staring at the photo I'd framed, "Built without you." And it hit me. That phrase wasn't bitterness. It was a declaration. Because I didn't build my life to prove them wrong. I built it so I'd never need their permission again. The next morning, I found an envelope tucked under my doormat. Inside was a short note in Evelyn's handwriting. "You didn't have to embarrass Mom. She's been crying for days. I hope your house keeps you warm at night." I folded it neatly, tucked it behind the Built Without You photo, and whispered to myself, "It does." A year later, to the exact week I signed the papers, the duplex looked like a completely different house. The paint had settled smooth, the porch lights glowed gold, and the yard, finally free of weeds, felt like a reflection of something I'd been growing inside myself. Angela and Dennis were still my tenants, still the kind of people you thank the universe for. That morning, Angela dropped off cinnamon rolls for the anniversary of your escape from chaos. And Dennis gifted me a new set of screwdrivers wrapped in newspaper because, as he put it, you can't have too many ways to fix things. I spent the afternoon repainting the front steps, humming along to an old playlist, when Luca arrived. He handed me a cup of coffee and leaned on the railing beside me. "Hard to believe it's been a year," he said. "Hard to believe I ever thought I needed their approval," I replied. He smiled, watching me carefully outline each step with a brush. "You know," he said, "you don't talk about them much anymore." I don't need to. The silence says enough. We grilled burgers that evening, me, Angela, and Dennis. The 3 of us laughed about everything from bad DIY hacks to Dennis's disastrous attempt at online dating. It wasn't fancy, but it was full. The kind of peace that doesn't perform. As the sun dipped, I caught sight of a car slowing at the end of the street. My stomach tightened instinctively. A white SUV. Only this time it wasn't creeping. It rolled slowly, cautiously, like someone driving past a memory they weren't sure they belonged to anymore. Through the windshield, I saw her. Mom, alone, no dad, no Evelyn, just her, gripping the steering wheel, staring at the house. Our eyes met for half a second, long enough to read what words couldn't carry. A mix of pride, regret, and the faint, fragile hope that maybe the door was still unlocked. And it was, figuratively at least. But I didn't move. I didn't wave. I didn't break the peace I'd earned to make her comfortable. She hesitated, then gave a small nod, barely perceptible, before pulling away. Angela noticed the look on my face. "Everything okay?" "Yeah," I said softly. "Everything's exactly how it's supposed to be." Later that night, when everyone was gone, I sat on the porch alone. The framed photo, built without you, hung inside by the doorway, catching the porch light through the window. I could see its reflection in the glass, glowing faintly like a quiet anthem. I thought about that girl from a year ago, the one who whispered "you did it" to empty rooms because no one else would. Now she didn't need witnesses. She didn't need applause. She had proof. I pulled out my phone and took a new picture. Me sitting on the porch, cup of tea in hand, steps freshly painted. I posted it with one simple caption. Worth every brick. No tags, no hashtags, no need to explain. Within minutes, Luca reacted with a heart. Angela commented a row of little house emojis. Dennis just wrote, "Landlord of the Year." That was all the validation I needed. Because I finally understood. Peace doesn't announce itself. It just settles in, one repaired board and one unreturned guilt text at a time. And for the first time in my life, I didn't wonder what they thought of me. I just smiled, leaned back, and whispered to the quiet night, "I built this, and I'm not sorry."